When should you use a subject pronoun? Believe it or not, there are rules which govern the use of these pronouns. Let's start by identifying those subject pronouns. And here's our list. I, you, he, she, it, we, they, and who. Now you'll notice that 3 of them were highlighted. That's because you and it are also object pronouns. They can be used as either subject or object pronouns. Secondly, the word who is also a relative pronoun. We'll discuss relative pronouns in another video. So remember, you and it can be used as both subject or object pronouns. And remember to make notes to help you revise. You'll want to copy this diagram in your books. Now let's see when we should actually use subject pronouns. The first guide says when it is being used in the subject position of a sentence. The second, after the verbs to be, specifically am, is, was, or were. The third says after comparisons which use the words as or than. Now you've got to be careful with this one. I'll show you a trick later on. And our last guide says after expressions such as seems to be, said to be, thought to be, essentially use a subject pronoun with any similar phrase, anything to be. So let's look at examples of each rule. And it's a good idea to have a list of the subject pronouns for reference. So we use a subject pronoun when it is being used in the subject position of a sentence. James and I have seen that movie several times. I underlined the verbs in each of these sentences. So, who have seen the movie? James and I. That's the subject position of a sentence. She and I painted the walls ourselves. Who painted the walls? She and I, subject position. He and Kevin mopped up the water that spilled onto the floor. Who mopped up the water? He and Kevin. He is being used in the subject position. Have Paul and they arrived? Have who arrived? Paul and they, subject position. So we use subject pronouns after the verbs to be, specifically am, is, was, or were. It was she who baked the delicious goodies. Was is the verb to be. Therefore, we use a subject pronoun, which is she. Were they offered anything to drink? Were is the verb to be. So we use a subject pronoun, which is they. You see, for all these examples, I have underlined and highlighted important words and details. And you should also do this. It shows that you are recalling the rules or the guidelines. So when you have an assignment or exercise to complete, this is how you must approach it. Underline relevant words. Number 3 says, it is he who cut the lawn. Is the verb to be. Therefore, a subject pronoun is used. Use a subject pronoun with comparisons that use the words as or than. Jeremy runs much faster than they. Now, there's a trick that I want to show you. To tell whether to use a subject or object pronoun with this rule or guideline, you must complete the sentence. Let me show you what I mean. So the first sentence says, Jeremy runs much faster than they. To be sure that they is the correct pronoun, you must say, Jeremy runs much faster than they run. Jeremy runs much faster than they run. So now we know that a subject pronoun must be used. Be careful with this rule. The second sentence says, Uma writes more slowly than he. Right? We're checking now. Uma writes more slowly than he writes. Right? So we see here a subject pronoun must be used. We wouldn't say that Uma writes more slowly than him, because when we check, we'll get Uma writes more slowly than him writes, and that's not correct. So we know that we need a subject pronoun. And the third sentence says, Kim sings as sweetly as we. Checking. Kim sings as sweetly as we sing. So we know that we need a subject pronoun. We use subject pronouns after the expression seems to be, said to be, or thought to be, and any similar phrase. It is thought to be she who painted the masterpiece. Thought to be, subject pronoun. It is said to be he who auditioned for the part of Mikey. Said to be, subject pronoun. It was thought to be they who remodeled the house. Thought to be, subject pronoun. Again, underline important words and details. Underline relevant words. So we've gone through examples of all 4 rules or guidelines. Write them in your book. Ensure that you have the examples as well. Now let's practice. We're going to explain why a subject pronoun was used in each sentence. Was it he who contacted you? Do you know why a subject pronoun was used in this sentence? Which word should we underline? So I underlined the word was because it's the verb to be. And what is my explanation? My explanation is we use a subject pronoun after the word was since it's the verb to be. Sasha drives more cautiously than they. Which word should I underline? Remember the trick for comparisons. You must complete the sentence. So, Sasha drives more cautiously than they drive. So we know we have to use a subject pronoun. Now, what is our explanation? When comparisons are being made using the words as or than, a subject pronoun is used. So here we are explaining why a subject pronoun was used. It seems to be he who won the medal. What important word or words should I underline? I underlined seems to be. With that phrase, I know that I have to use a subject pronoun. Now, what is our explanation? A subject pronoun is used after the expression seems to be. Aria and they have already gone. Again, which word should I underline? What is our explanation? A subject pronoun is used in the subject position of a sentence. Who have gone? Aria and they, subject position. Here's a list of all 4 explanations that I used. You want to write them down. Here's your first assignment. Just as we did before, you're going to explain why subject pronouns were used in these sentences. Remember to underline relevant words or details. And for your second practice exercise, you will identify the errors in this text and explain why they were actually wrong. I do hope this video was helpful to you. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.